Well, that was a basketball game. The Nets super beat up on the Sixers. I figure why not do a post-game reaction for this one? I mean, we got the confirmation that we all already kind of knew, which is that the Nets, when they have most of their team, they're really, really good. I mean, there was more to this game than just Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving being good at basketball, but that was also part of it, of course, just the tough shot making, and you get it. I mean, we already know that with this team being in the play-in tournament, as of right now, I think they're 5 games back of the sixth seed, with however many games left in the season and however many that Kyrie is available to play, and we'll see if they have him for every game if we fast forward a month from now or whatever. There's a very strong possibility that they will face a 1 or a 2 seed in the first round. We also saw their defense tonight really bother the hell out of Philly, with James Harden being the biggest example of that. I mean, yeah, some of it was Harden just not being good, but some of it was also like, they had Drummond dropping on Harden on a couple screens, I think early in the game, and he was giving him like a pull-up mid-range basically, but Harden didn't want to do it, so he kind of like tried to get, I think it was Kyrie guarding him on his back, and then that gave Drummond time to switch on to him, and it eventually led to like a step-back 17-footer that didn't go, and it was like, well, that wasn't the ideal thing off of a Harden screen action. Other times there were like, they'll trap and then they would leave Thibault wide open in the corner, and then it's Tobias rolling to the rim and they get a good contest on him. I think it was like James Johnson who contested his shot at the rim or whatever. Kyrie held up pretty okay, defending Harden one-on-one. Harden also had a couple of lazy turnovers, so that wasn't great. And also, Goran Dragic was a bit of a surprise with how he was being physical with Harden on the drives, but not fouling him and then allowing extra nets like James Johnson again or whoever to collapse. Again, just bother Harden. Of course, we saw Harden complaining to the refs a lot in the first quarter, so obviously he thought it was too physical. If the Nets are going to play defense like this as a team, sure, they benefited off of Philly missing some threes, and again, I think Harden helped him out with being a little more bad than just playing against good defense. But if they can guard like this as a team, as well as get Ben Simmons back, and then they have Kyrie for every game, I mean, yeah, that's a team that can still win the whole thing, even with how messy of a season they've had up to this point. Now, with that said, as of right now, they still don't have Kyrie available for every game, so I don't know if you're going to see this type of performance from them every game the rest of the way, but we know that there's always the potential for this, and we'll see how the world, specifically New York City, is over the next month or whatever. Besides KD and Kyrie making a bunch of good shots, and sometimes the Sixers just not getting high enough on screens, like Embiid, I remember there was one specifically where KD went around a screen, Embiid was just a little slow to get up to him. There was one where Tobias thought that KD was going to his left to go around a screen, just crosses over, wide open three. Kevin Durant's awesome. There were also moments where the Nets role players just did the right things on offense. I mean, you had Seth Curry just making shots. Kudos to him. But I also felt like Nick Claxton did a really good job of having some space in the middle of the floor when they were bringing two to, I think it was mostly KD he was screening for, but it might have been Kyrie a couple times. Like, I think there was like 2 straight drives off the dribble that Claxton had in like the second quarter. There was one where, similar thing, it was a trap, and then they helped off of Seth Curry, which I don't know if that was the best idea, but they helped off of Seth, and then Claxton got it to him. And that's been the question with Claxton, right? Can he make those split-second decisions in the middle of the floor? There was also that one, and I believe it was the first quarter, where they trapped, and James Johnson had the middle of the floor, and he got himself basically a very easy straight line drive, two-handed dunk, which was not a good sign. It felt like Philly's defense and just who they chose to help off of and when they chose to double and all that, I don't know if they were a step slow, if everybody wasn't on the same page of where the next rotation was, but it just seemed like they were slow to react to kind of everything. Or maybe the Nets just made so many shots that none of it mattered. Another thing the Nets did was they went to this lineup. It was KD with, I think, Kyrie, Dragic, and Seth Curry and Bruce Brown, or Patty Mills and Bruce Brown, whatever. And it was just kind of wild because it's like, man, if you're not going to be able to make them pay for being that small and having that much shooting on the floor, they could just kill you with like 4 straight threes. Now, they did it when Embiid was not in the game, so for what that's worth, but it was just a moment I had of, oh yeah, Steve Nash has this in his back pocket. I mean, there's just such an array of shooters or more defensive dudes, like again, James Johnson, Bruce Brown, still playing a lot on this team. There's a lot of options to go to, and again, if you have Ben Simmons and Kyrie for every game, then okay, here we go. Is there anything to get out of this for Philly besides that they played bad, mainly James Harden? I mean, Embiid got to the line a lot, so that's good. Honestly, man, I mean, sure, there's always going to be a conversation of like, well, could you have more guys cutting when guys are loading up on Harden, or is that skip pass going to be there and you just got to tell them in film, hey, just look out for that next time. That's all fair, but it's also like, James, we can't have you get locked up by Goran Dragic. We can't have you show too much hesitation when Andre Drummond is giving you drop coverage. You know what I mean? So he had a bad game in the middle of March. Some people will say that that is a sign that James Harden sucks and Philly's doomed in the playoffs, and it's a game in March. That's all I'm going to say.